Hello, it's Diane, and I wanted to show you a junk journal today that I made for a swap on Junk Journal Junkies. This was a vintage lady swap, and the requirements were that it had to be at least 4 by 6 inches, have 4 signatures, and each signature had to contain at least 4 vintage lady images. My book is 4 3/4 by 7 1/2, so it's a little larger than the minimum. It does have 4 signatures, and they're sewn in, and each signature has well over 4 vintage lady images, because I love vintage lady images. That's right up my alley. So I just had so much fun putting this book together, and I kind of hate to give it away, but I'm quite anxious to see what I will get in return. I have never done a swap for junk journals. I did a smash book swap one-on-one with Alette from the Netherlands, but I just joined, and that was a lot of fun too, but I just joined Junk Journal Junkies recently, and so it's my first group type swap where I don't know who I'm swapping with when I make the book. So anyway, this is the book. There is a lot in it. It's quite chunky. As I said, the binding is stitched in, or the signatures are stitched in, and I glued this pretty trim in between the lines of stitching just to pretty up the spine. This is an old book cover. It was a play, A Man for All Seasons, and I sprayed it with some stencils and inks, and then I put this postcard on, and this was actually an advertising postcard that I found in a magazine that I got from the library for free. They were just giving away magazines that somebody donated, and it had 3 of these postcards. It was advertising some kind of alcohol, and I just made a copy of that in a sepia tone, and I put a paper doily over the name of whatever the brand was that was being advertised, and this was a free printout, or a free download, and I printed that off and put that there. The spine is covered with this fabric tape that I found at Walmart. It's made by Duck, that makes duct tape, but these are fabrics. So I took this blue one, and I used a piece of cardboard to make the spine. Another requirement was the spine had to be 2 to 2 1/2 inches. So this is 2 1/4 inches. And I covered it with the blue fabric duct tape. Here's the back. I used a piece of this, I don't have it out with me. Oh, here it is. Looks like pattern tissue, but this was actually from a railroad company. This is from 1968, and I got a whole pack of these papers that were written on to keep records, and I thought they were really neat, so I sprayed the back cover as I did the front, and then just put some of that tissue, and I used gloss medium to seal everything, and I put this little bling sticker right there in the corner. This is a brad. I poked a hole in there, punched a hole actually with my Big Bite, and used this pretty brad from Stampin' Up. Another brad on the back. This baker's twine, let's see if I can get this off now, is tied around the prongs on the back, and then you just wrap it around. I might replace this with a ribbon. I just put this on today, so I might replace that with something prettier. It's a gray baker's twine. So I'll go through the book as quickly as I can. I might have to do it in 2 parts. I'm not sure. Just depends on how much I want to talk about it, because there's a lot in it. There's the inside cover, and I just left that paper plain. They can write something on there. This is another free printable, and it was a pocket. And this is something I printed from the internet. A nice piece of artwork by John Waterhouse. I think it's John, but it's Waterhouse anyway. And here's a shipping tag that goes in the pocket, and I chopped it off to make it shorter because I didn't want it to cover up her face. So that's one of the lady images, and then on this tag I distressed it and added a couple of stamps of ladies' faces. And there's a stamp up here. This is a window envelope. You'll see the window section as we go along, and I decorated it with scraps of paper. There's a journaling card in there and a little metal tab. This is music paper. I sprayed it with inks. And again on that side. And this is a vintage lady that was in a book about fashion that I got for $1. Love that lady. And put some washi tape on it. And there's a Gibson girl on the other side. This was a little 6x6 piece of paper, scrapbook paper, and I just edge punched or corner punched, put a tab on it and stamped. It's a graphic 45 image there from their couture collection. Here is a bullet journal that I printed, a bullet journal page that I printed off the internet, and I sprayed that, put some washi tape. And there's a scrap of graphic 45 couture paper. Here's a sheet from the Lehigh Valley Railroad record book that I have. Prima paper, a little Prima card, and a couple of Prima cards tucked inside there. Just a stamp up there and some stickers. This says, it's a sticker that says favorite things, and a doorknob stamp that I have. I cut that out and glued it on. This is a page out of that fashion book, and I sprayed that page with inks. A little library pocket, a little tiny one that I made with my Cricut, and then I put this top hat sticker on it. And then inside the pocket I tucked this little banner that was cut with the Cricut and a couple of graphic 45 tags. Had to have something little to go in that little pocket. Here's a printout from the internet. Petticoats. Some stamps. Ledger paper. A little card here that says good luck. This is Stampin' Up! Paper. And I just kind of made a collage of little pieces here, stitched them together, and then zigzag stitched them on here as a little tuck spot. This is a card that I printed from the internet. Here's a page from a book with a blank spot for journaling. There's some bling up here in the corner and a sticker. And there's the center of the first signature, and I put a sticker there. A little Prima card there. Stamps. There's a sticker, but it's a label that can be written on. More graphic 45 stamp from Couture. And the other part of that book or page from the fashion book. And that's a sticker. Here's the other half of the window envelope. I decorated it with this and edge punched it. And then in the window, I put these graphic 45 stamps, glued them onto this little tag, put a tab on it. And there's a stamp from the graphic 45 collection. A girl should be two things, classy and fabulous, Coco Chanel. Okay, that's the first signature. The second signature starts out with another page from that fashion book. And here is another of these postcards. And I glued this to just a little note card, just a plain note card that I had coffee stained and stamped there, think happy, be happy. It's another image from that fashion book. A Prima tag and a graphic 45 tag that I fastened together and then stitched in as a pocket for this tag. There's the handwriting penmanship paper there for school children. And some pretty stamps here. Graphic 45 images that I stuck together and then glued on as a pocket for this tag. a time card that I sprayed, a little piece of Prima paper, and it's got a sticker on the top that says Bliss with a little piece of bling. Stamped that little cameo lady here. This is one of the embellishments that I make by gluing a bunch of pieces together, and I put that on there as a text spot. Used a graphic 45 stamp, the stamped images that you cut off their papers, as a tab. Now, I said this book was a play, and whoever owned this book wrote on the end papers on front and back, and I thought that was pretty neat, so I just left that. I left their writing and just made it a part of the book. There's another in another section that I'll show you. This is pink lined paper, and I stamped that nice fashionable lady there. Here's just a book page, and I wrapped this coffee dyed doily around it and then stitched it with this strip of graphic 45 fashionable ladies stamps. And there's the other side of it, the strip. This is a page from a planner, an old planner that was outdated. You'll see the rest of that page further on. Here's a page that I sprayed with glimmer mist and stamped a pretty lady on it. Here's another sheet of lined paper that has shoes and a handbag on it. This is from the Erie Lackawanna Railroad Company that came in the same pack that all these came with. It had some of these pages in it too. There's a paint chip glued on or stitched on as a pocket. This I got from the Goodwill, and it looks like a wedding place card. It has seed beads glued to the heart there. Here's the other end of that book page, and I stitched on a piece of scrapbook paper, scrap there, and added a journaling card there. It's a dressmaker's form. The other half of that end paper that was written on, and I glued on a little tag there. I stamped this and then cut it out and glued it on. This isn't a real doily. It was printed on scrapbook paper, but I cut it out, stitched it on there like I did the other doilies. This is a printed image, and this is a stamp. And this is cut out from the graphic 45 paper. These are just punched out with some Stampin' Up! Punches, just a scrap of paper across the top, some stickers here, a sticker there, another label to write on. It's the other half of the coffee dyed note card with stamps on it, and the other half of the fashion book page. This is just a scrap of graphic 45 paper, and I stitched it on there to hold a tag. And that's the third or the second signature. I will do the third and fourth signature in another video.